Hey guys, it's Jennifer with Roots Redefined. Get your passport ready because today we are taking you through the United Kingdom at Epcot's 2021 International Flower and Garden Festival. Now before we dive into the adorable themed gardens and character topiaries, let's just discuss the overall landscaping here. Soft pink lilies, daisies, and blue days greet you at the front. An arbor, both beautiful and functional, is covered in purple queen's wreath flowers. Overflowing flower beds are synonymous with the English garden, and that is exactly what we have here. I also love the ivy growing around the base of the oak tree. Ivy works fantastic as a ground cover in shaded areas like this because unlike grass, it doesn't need much direct light. As you move further in, dainty snapdragons, bright red and pink begonias, and purple coxcomb blanket the ground in this English-style garden. Some patience and yellow daisies are sprinkled in as well. Snapdragons are beautiful and easy to grow. They got their name because of the flower's resemblance to the face of a dragon that opens and closes its mouth when squeezed. Snapdragons are also deer resistant, so if Bambi enjoys hanging out in your garden at home, planting some might offer protection. One of my personal favorites are the hydrangeas because of their big full blooms and amazing vivid colors that they produce. They don't even look real. They are also fascinating because unlike most other plants, the color of their flowers can change dramatically depending on the pH of the soil. But you also can't overlook the coxcomb here. They have such cool, unique looking flowers that come in a variety of shapes and colors. The coxcomb is useful in garden borders or planted between taller plants in the garden to add a spike of color near ground level. You'll also notice throughout this garden that repetition really makes the colors pop. Disney plants over 3.5 million bedding plants and annuals every year. Over 200,000 additional bedding plants are added to the landscape each year for the Flower and Garden Festival. Now, what makes a garden an English garden? In many cases, it's a garden's shapes that give it the English look. These shapes are created using features like hardscaping paths, retaining walls, flower beds, and hedges. Precisely manicured boxwood hedges are used to edge paths and geometric planting beds. They also provide year-round interest when other parts of the garden may not be at their prime. Now, while strolling through this elegant garden, you might also spot some pollinators hard at work. Spike the bee would be proud. Pollinators, such as these bees, are responsible for assisting over 80% of the world's flowering plants to reproduce. Now let's dive into this lovely English tea garden. A tea garden by definition is a garden where tea and light refreshments are served, a tea plantation, or any garden with which the drinking of tea is associated. It's often a peaceful place for a stroll or social event. Now I would say this garden fits that to a T. No pun intended. It has such a calming and inviting vibe. I can definitely see how someone could lose track of time walking along the path enjoying all of the plants and flowers. In this garden you'll find 12 different teas displayed, including a rose garden black tea, a cold brew green tea with mint, and a mango pineapple herbal tea. I love how they use the giant teacups to display some of the plants and herbs that go into making each drink. Camellia sinensis, more commonly known as the tea plant, is used to make most traditional caffeinated teas, including black, white, oolong, and green tea. This plant originated near the southwest region of China as an evergreen forest shrub. The leaves are glossy green with serrated edges and are similar in both shape and size to a bay leaf. They produce beautiful white blooms as well. In this garden, they even explain the 6 steps that are involved with making tea, which I thought was pretty neat. Now, if you're a tea lover with some sunny space to spare, you may even want to try making your own tea garden. A tea garden is the perfect addition to a yard. Growing a garden of tea and herbs can allow you to enjoy your own blends as well as the beautiful flowers and aromas of the fresh herbs. Herbs look lovely in the garden on top of serving a function. They are an incredibly versatile group of plants. Lavender, for example, is an anti-inflammatory and will attract beneficial insects to the garden. Chamomile is known to be a great natural sleep aid and is also a wonderful companion plant that will attract pollinators to your yard. If you love the themed character topiaries, you definitely want to swing through the UK because out of all the countries at the World Showcase, this area has the most. First up is Tinkerbell and the Fairy Garden. So this area of England isn't a secret, but I do think it's a little overlooked. You feel like you are in your own private little fairy garden, and it's so magical back here. They even have benches so that you can sit down and just take everything in. There are two main planting beds back here with similar design and color schemes. You'll notice that these beds are a little less refined than the tea garden beds. The landscaping here takes on more of a cottage-style feel. Cottage gardens traditionally have beds by the house packed tight with plants. This informal crowding of a wide variety of plants is a signature feature. Perennial and annual flowers are mixed with vegetable and foliage plants, twining around each other and competing for attention. It's what makes a cottage garden so fascinating. Now in this garden we have deep blues, purples, and pinks covering the center of each bed, with a little bit of yellow and orange filling in on the sides. Taking a deeper look, we have both scarlet sage salvia and blue salvia, petunias, orb-shaped clusters of verbena, and sweet william. I think verbena are really pretty flowers and can be added to pretty much any garden to spruce things up. And they have long-lasting blooms that perform during the hottest days of summer. Birchwood and Texas sage help to provide some interest and height. For added texture, they've included a few Boston ferns and the milk thistle plant, which has unique white milky veins on its leaves. The delphiniums back here are my favorite. I could totally see these plants in Pandora over at Animal Kingdom. Delphiniums are perennials grown for their showy spikes of colorful summer flowers in gorgeous shades of blue, pink, white, and purple. They are popular in cottage-style gardens and cutting gardens. Now we also have some Podocarpus topiaries back here. While these may not be the character topiaries we love, they are still worth mentioning. If you take a moment to stop and notice, you'll see how impressive they really are. Not all topiaries are created equal, but it usually takes at least 3 to 4 years of growth before they can even get their first shaping, and it could be longer depending on the variety. Then the topiaries will be shaped again several more times over subsequent years before they are large and lush enough to be sold at a nursery. Now, fairy gardens can be really fun to recreate yourself at home. Typically, these miniature gardens consist of small landscapes filled with plants and trinkets designed to attract fairies to your garden. It's simple to get started, and customizing the garden with special touches is where the magic lives. Alpine plants and succulents are often ideal for fairy gardens. They're pretty and compact. A great tip is to buy tiny plants and then keep the plant in its pot and sink it into the ground to restrict its growth. My personal favorite is Winnie the Pooh and Friends. Pooh is just so stinking cute. What's not to love about this adorable bear holding a red balloon? I mean, come on. And of course we have the entire gang with him. Rabbit harvesting some carrots from his garden, Tigger probably getting ready to bounce off somewhere, and Piglet hitching a ride on top of Eeyore. The color scheme here is definitely warm and cheerful. We have a row of cute tiny bush daisies behind larger orange and yellow daisies, mixed in with begonias and purple salvia. On the color wheel, purple and yellow are opposites, which makes them complementary. That's why this combination always looks good in a garden. Begonias come in a wide variety of shapes, sizes, and colors. The type used here have red flowers and bronze foliage, which makes them pop compared to your usual green foliage. Begonias are pretty adaptable. They thrive in partial sun and shade and work just as well in the flower border as they do in pots, window boxes, or in a hanging basket. They have almost no insect or disease problems, and their blooms are prized by butterflies and hummingbirds. We also have the lovely Miss Piggy, who appears to be getting ready to go off on a trip, hopefully a vacation. Beautiful pink hydrangeas mixed in with cream, orange, white, and red daisies blanket the floor beneath her. Hydrangeas are simply gorgeous. They add bold color and drama to flower beds and containers. Now, something to keep in mind is Disney will switch out flowers throughout the festival. This is my second visit during this year's Flower and Garden. On my first visit, there weren't any hydrangeas in Miss Piggy's bed. In its place were pink snapdragons. I love how Disney switches out the flowers. This keeps things fun and exciting for anyone planning multiple trips during Flower and Garden. And of course, next to Miss Piggy, we have Kermit the Frog, who appears to be taking a relaxing bike ride with his basket of flowers. The flowers have been spruced up here too. The bed was initially full of yellow, orange, and peach daisies with just a touch of purple. On my next visit, I noticed they mixed in quite a few purple hydrangeas with the orange and peach daisies. Daisies are a popular choice for gardens, and for good reason. Bright, cheerful, and easy to grow, the flowers are mainstays of cottage gardens and classic perennial borders. But the term daisy is actually pretty broad. There are a multitude of options when it comes to choosing daisies to grow in your garden. The common name daisy is applied to zinnias, asters, sunflowers, as well as a number of common weeds such as dandelions. Captain Hook and Peter Pan also make an appearance this year. Hopefully no one has to walk the plank. Behind Captain Hook and Peter Pan, we have canna lilies, which are a tropical, colorful summer bulb, prized for their super-sized leaves that can be either bright green, bronze, black, or variegated. Cannas are sun-loving tropical plants that thrive in hot, humid conditions. The type displayed here boasts paddle-shaped bronze leaves with orange blooms. Blue salvia and yellow bush daisy with peach daisies are planted in front of the lilies. I also love how they incorporate Dusty Miller into Captain Hook's outfit. The Dusty Miller plant is an interesting landscape addition, grown for its silvery gray foliage. The lacy leaves of the Dusty Miller plant make it an attractive companion for other plants and flowers in a garden. They also have a Shakespeare Garden here, which appears to take on more of a classic English garden style. William Shakespeare often used flowers in exotic gardens in his plays and poetry. Now, Shakespeare Garden is a themed garden that cultivates some or all of the 175 plants mentioned in the works of William Shakespeare. A geometric layout with boxwood dividers is common, similar to what you see here. In this bed are orange marigolds, violas mixed with sweet alyssum, blue porterweed, and 2 honeysuckle vines growing on trellises. The honeysuckle just may be the queen of flowering vines, twining with abandon around arbors and archways, trellises, and tree trunks, filling the air with their lovely scent. Because of their red color and tubular shape, the vine's flowers are also attractive to hummingbirds. The formal design here also includes a fountain toward the back of the path, which adds interest. In the past, fountains were not the beautiful stone water features we know and love today. Back then, they simply provided drinking and bathing water. But over time, that obviously changed and they became a lot more decorative. And of course, no Shakespeare Garden would be complete without roses. The rose was considered to be the queen of all flowers and was used to represent beauty and love. It's the most mentioned flower throughout Shakespeare's work. If you have a sunny spot, you can recreate this rosebed at home. Rose care is probably easier than you think. If you've ever been afraid to start a rose garden, the truth is roses are no more difficult to care for than any other flowering shrub. And there are plenty of colors and varieties to choose from. I do suggest purchasing your roses from a local nursery though, so that you can be sure you're buying roses that were grown in your zone. This means the roses will probably be more resistant to local diseases and pests, which will increase the likelihood of a healthy start for the plants. In the rose bed, we have a stone planter with loads of gorgeous golden yellow flowers surrounding a rosemary plant in the center. Rosemary was actually one of the most important plants in Shakespeare's time. It was a symbol of remembrance and friendship. Now this is something simple and edible that you can recreate at home. If you have an old bird bath, you can even use that as the planter. Mixing herbs, and vegetables for that matter, with flowers can increase garden yields and flower production. The flowers increase nectar production, attracting more beneficial insects that protect edible plants and pollinators that increase flower production. Now, if you enjoyed the English-style gardens over at the United Kingdom, you might want to check out my flower and garden video on France. While the UK and France pavilions have their own distinctive styles, they also share some similarities. So that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching. This is Jennifer with Roots Redefined. I'll see you again real soon.